Let's bring John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com, national columnist, GetMoreSports.com, covers the NFL. He's with us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. And, John, yesterday, Terrence West, Matt Jones, a crowded backfield for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Jones is a guy that a lot of people liked. I mean, Washington kind of handed him the starting running back job there. He didn't really do what they thought he would. He got hurt. I mean, he's been all over. He was with the Colts a little bit here. But, number one, why are the Eagles bringing in all these running backs? What's the message there? And number two, do you think Jones and or West have a shot to make this team?
Well, real quick, they did not sign Terrence West. They brought him in, 3 running backs along with Matt Jones, and a third we haven't identified yet. So they had sort of an open tryout. Matt Jones won it, and the Eagles signed him today to a 2-year contract. So, but as far as, why are they bringing him in? They weren't able to address the position in the draft. They clearly wanted to. I think if Ronald Jones would have lasted into the second round, I think he would have been a Philadelphia Eagle as we speak here today. They only had 5 draft picks, and they wanted more competition. I think it's a clear indication they don't have much confidence in Wendell Smallwood. They don't have much confidence in Donnell Pumphrey having a bounce back from his sort of difficulties in his rookie season during training camp. And this is a team that, remember, carried 5 running backs last season. So while you look at Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement and Darren Sproles, that's 3. You still need another guy. You might need 2 other guys. And Jones is in that equation. And he's a very talented kid, very big, brings some of that big back mentality they had with LeGarrette Blount. His issue has been fumbling. He cannot hold on to the football. He's touched it about 290 times in his NFL career, and he's fumbled 8 times. And that's just atrocious. So unless he figures that out, it's not going to amount to much. But
he's an impressive stature, man. 6'2", 240 pounds, and he's a fast guy. He's not a lumbering guy. I mean, this guy, he's got some speed. He's when he was with Washington, 4.6 yards a carry. They really thought that he was going to be the guy down there.
Yeah, he started, I think, the first 7 games in his second season.
Yep.
And then he got hurt, and then Rob Kelly sort of gotten hot, and there were still the fumble issues. He had fumbled 5 times as a rookie, fumbled 3 times in that second season, and at some point, if you keep doing that, they got to take you off the field, and that's what happened in Washington. Others have sort of, everybody always brings up Tiki Barber as a guy who conquered that, had tremendous fumbling problems early in his career, figured it out. Hopefully Jones can do the same, because if he does, he does have talent. There's no doubt about that. Former 3rd-round pick. As you mentioned, the size-speed ratio is very nice. Obviously, he's not going to have a tremendous amount of pressure. And remember, Jay Ajayi is a lame duck, and there is long-term concerns with his knee and the chronic issue. And the fact is, you don't necessarily want to get to that second contract with a running back, because if you do, that means you're probably paying him a lot of money. So I don't know if the Eagles have necessarily penciled in Jay Ajayi past this season.
Yeah, now, Bill, you had mentioned that Buddy Ryan told you basically you're the kind of guy we're looking to replace.
Every team would look to replace.
So
you're a nice guy, but just know, that doesn't mean you can't make it, but just realize you're going to keep working really hard, because you're a player that every team's going to look to replace.
Right. So the question is,
okay, is that a backhanded compliment? Thank you.
Which guy in that running back room would the Eagles be looking to replace?
Well, it's definitely Wendell, I think. I think there's a lot of disappointment in his inability to stay on the field. He's had a lot of injury issues, a lot of banged-up issues. There's been some whispers maybe that he could have been on the field and he wasn't on the field. I think there's some frustration from that standpoint. And I think sort of the 1-year draft pick, get out of jail free card, for lack of a better expression, is up for Donnell Pumphrey. And now they're not going to keep him on the roster just because they drafted him. He's got to make this football team this time around. And, hey, if you looked at him last year, the odds are not good for him to make a run at a roster spot this year. But sometimes competition can make players flick on that switch. And I think it truly will be who's better amongst that sort of bottom group. And Jones joins that group of Smallwood and Pumphrey and even Josh Adams, who's coming in as an undrafted rookie.
How do you think the Eagles have addressed their needs in the offseason, and what else would you like to see?
Well, I think they've done a really good job. I think arguably, if anything, they're more talented. I think if you look at certain positions, Michael Bennett, I think, is an upgrade over Vinny Curry. I think Haloti Ngata is an upgrade over Bo Allen. Now, what throws sort of a wrinkle into that is the Tim Jernigan injury. So now you have to start talking about maybe getting another body in for him. And they also worked out Courtney Upshaw yesterday. Former Ravens and Falcons players switched to defensive tackle. They could be looking at bringing him in. He's another guy who has history with Joe Douglas. And so when you're looking at May and where they were, it's pretty good right now, but it's still a work in progress. And the one thing that really, really is glaring at this point that they haven't addressed is that third safety position that Corey Graham handled so well last season. Right now, they don't have somebody to take that over.
Yeah, and one thing, you mentioned the running backs in the room, Jay Ajayi, Corey Clement, Sproles, Pumphrey, Smallwood. They lose LeGarrette Blount, and I mean, looking back on that now, they're bringing all these running backs in. 3 tried out yesterday. They ended up bringing Matt Jones in. They got Ajayi there. Do you think that they maybe overlooked the importance of Blount?
No, I think they knew how important LeGarrette Blount is and was to their success last season. They also realized he's past 30. There's a reason. I mean, he had 18 touchdowns with New England. The year prior, didn't get a big deal. Actually got a bigger deal coming off the Eagles Super Bowl for the Lions. And they're just sort of budgeting. Obviously, they're always up against the cap. They continue to be. And they're looking for a little bit of a cheaper way to fill that role. And we'll see if it works out or not. The positive, you do it in a different way. But Darren Sproles is back, and Darren only played 2 games last year. Essentially, he got hurt in week 3 against the Giants. So if you have him for 16 games, well, it's a far different player, obviously, than LeGarrette Blount. But arguably, you have a more effective player, and certainly one that Doug Peterson is more comfortable with. I can tell you that 100%. So while it might be different, it might be an actual upgrade.
Yeah, and we know that the Eagles, with that running back, Corey Clement is a guy that will probably, you think, gets a big of that group. He gets the bigger role out of all the. I mean, you think Ajayi gets more of a role this year? They're going to keep him in a similar role.
Now, I think it's going to be a 3-man committee on paper. Ajayi's going to be the 2-down back. Darren's going to be the 3rd down back, and Corey's going to mix in to give Ajayi a breather. I think in a perfect world, that's how it shakes out. The bigger issue with Ajayi is long-term because of the chronic knee issues, the contract. Remember, he was very effective coming in mid-season, tremendous as far as yards per carry, very talented guy, but in Miami, he only practiced once a week. There is definite concern in this league over his long-term future because of the knee problems. And the Eagles are aware of that. So that's why they want bodies and they want to keep rotating guys in. And the second part, I think ultimately they would like to find They haven't found it. But remember, last year they would have drafted Dalvin Cook in the second round, and the Vikings traded up, sort of stole him away. This year, I believe they would have went after Ronald Jones. Ultimately, they do want to find a true three-down back, so you don't. You're not as easy at least, as far as traits go for the opposing defense. In other words, you want a guy to be able to be in there, so you don't tip anything off. And the Eagles haven't been able to find that at this point, but we're nitpicking because they won the Super Bowl.
And people don't realize when they think about a running back, just at one position, they think, oh, well, can he run the ball? Well, that's only one part, and you make a great point, because on first or second down, you can't think to your defense and say, well, we're just going to run the ball, because now if we go into a pass, he's got to be able to understand if a blitz is coming. He's got to be able to pass protect. If a blitz does come, he might be the hot read. He's got to do the right job, and then he's got to catch the ball, and then he's got to make people miss and get upfield. So, if you have a big lumbering running back that can just run the ball, he may be good on first down, but like you said, when you go in second or third down, he's in, you're telling your defense you're going to run the ball still. So, great point.
And the Eagles are very aware of that.
Yep.
And they know as they continue to go on with this sort of committee that it will become easier and easier for teams around this league to pick up these traits on certain downs. They're going to run certain plays with certain players. And that's ultimately, and Doug talks about it all the time, about getting a Jamal Charles type when he was in Kansas City, but that's easier said than done. A guy who can do all three things. There's not many of them to begin with, and it becomes more difficult because you have in colleges, and Corey's a perfect example. I wrote about him on 973ESPN.com. It was amazing to watch him from the first day of rookie camp all the way through Super Bowl 52, because he showed up as a kid out of Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin. Obviously, he's from Glassboro, but they didn't ask him to catch the football at Wisconsin. They didn't ask him to pick up the blitz, and he didn't know what the heck he was doing. And by the time he was in the Super Bowl, he's catching the football like he's Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara, whoever, Dalvin Cook, whoever you want to name. And that's because he worked so hard to get better. And he just had some natural skills, and they developed very, very quickly. And that's sort of what you have to do with young running backs.
Absolutely. And if you want to go and you want to watch some spirited action in training camp, go watch the time when the running backs and the defensive ends or the running back and linebackers are working on their pass protection and pass rush, because they get after it. And this is a copycat league. And if you're a running back who cannot pick up a blitz, or, as you know, in some protection schemes, you're actually this fifth or sixth guy. They're going to send the tight end out, and it's up to you to block the guy. And it's not just a blitz. It's part of the scheme. And if you are exposed every time you're in and it's a pass, they will tell their defense to blitz every time, and you will get blitzed every time until you show that you can pick it up. And I think that's what Corey did. So it's crazy in this play.
Deuce Staley also, Josh sends me that that Corey, he told him to lose weight and work on his hands. So there's a lot of things that these guys individually have to work on, whether it's learning how to catch passes out of the backfield. The next thing is learning how to block, which we find so many guys can't get on the field because they can't do that. They'll say, man, this guy's the flashiest. He's the fastest. Why isn't he getting more time? Well, they don't trust him to protect the most important guy on the field, John.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I talked about fumbling, and that is, I mean, if you fumble as a running back, that's the quickest thing to get you out of the game. The second quickest is getting the quarterback killed. If you can't pass protect, you can't play. And if you think about where the Eagles are, with the face of this franchise and a superstar quarterback who, when he is back on the field, is going to be wearing a knee brace. Well, if you're a running back on this team, you better darn well protect them, or you're not going to play. And that's what makes a guy like Darren Sproles and why Doug Peterson trusts him so much, despite the fact he's mid-30s now. He's coming off a torn ACL. He's coming off a broken arm, and Doug still trusts him more than any other running back he has. And it starts with the fact that he knows He's not going to make mistakes. He's not going to fumble the football. He's not going to blow a blitz pickup. And it sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised. There aren't a lot of running backs that can do all three things well. And it's really difficult to find a true three-down back.
Yeah. So Ajayi, Clement, Sproles, we assume that all three of those guys are safe. When we get to camp in a couple of weeks here, I can't believe it's going to be soon.
I was going to say that. You looked at me.
Pumphrey, Smallwood, either one of – I mean, do you think those guys both have a shot to get cut?
Yeah. I think right now Wendell is more likely to be cut than not. And I think, Donnell still has – and this is not just the Eagles, but every organization in this league, they want their draft picks to succeed. They really do. So they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, Wendell was also a draft pick, though, too, right?
Well, that's true, and that's what I was about to get to. As the years go by, that becomes less and less. In other words,
gotcha.
Donnell, as a rookie last year, he didn't deserve to make this football team, but he wasn't getting cut because the Eagles, they weren't going to do that. And they kept him on the roster and then eventually moved him to injured reserve. Now in his second year, it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to earn your spot. And that's where Wendell was last year, and now he's in his third year. And his issues, he earned his spot, Wendell. His issues have been staying on the field. And the old cliche, you can't help the club if you're in the tub. That's Wendell Smallwood's problem. But somebody's got to beat him out too. If Matt Jones keeps putting the football on the ground, he's not going to beat him out. If Josh Adams isn't ready to play, he's got a big name from Notre Dame, but he's another guy who will come in very, very similar to Corey Clement in the fact that he was a big-time rusher at a big-time college that likes to run the football, but they don't ask him to catch the football and they don't ask him to pass block. So Deuce is going to be going through the same thing he went through with Corey last year with Josh Adams. Now it's up to Josh to take advantage of the situation like Corey did.
We'll see. When's the training camp? In somewhere in early July, mid-July?
Official date late July. Mini camps June 12th to June 14th. Then you have about 6 weeks off. Late July training camp, and rookie camp starts Friday.
And
OTAs are right after that, right?
Yeah, OTAs have already started phase one, and they go through. But on-field OTAs, I believe May 22nd would be the first one the media is allowed into. So, but they're going on, and the on-field stuff will start in earnest after the rookie camp.
John McMullen at JF McMullen on Twitter. Give him a follow. Troll him there. GetMoreSports.com, their NFL columnist, and, of course, all his Eagles stuff at 97.3 ESPN.com. He appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. John, thank you so much, pal.
Thank you, guys.